Hey guys, how's it going? So, this is going to be a video on my thoughts and some theories about Skull 2 and everything surrounding it, since I haven't seen a lot of official news on it, or anything coming from Vanda's camp explaining what's going on. So, I think it comes down to us sort of guessing, trying to get some of the information from context clues, that sort of thing, until the full release of the album. Now, this is a new type of video that I'm trying to do, and it's podcast like, because I don't have a script or anything, so I'm just speaking freely, but it is going to be centered around specific topics. And I've just always wanted to talk about music a little bit more deeply than just reacting. But reacting is still going to be my main thing. So if that's what you like, don't worry, it's not going to go away. But let's go ahead and start off with what we do know about the album, and that's Vannda mentioned that there were going to be, and I believe, at least according to a lot of the comments that I've seen, is called seasons. Two seasons of Skull 2, one dropping now, basically, or around this time, and season 2 dropping sometime before the end of the year is, I think, the most information we've gotten from Vannda and his team. Um, but they haven't explained a whole lot of what that means, and they definitely did not explain what was going on when these two songs dropped. So that's another thing that we do know about is two songs have dropped alongside episode 1 of a documentary showcasing the creation of this album. And I actually reacted to both the two songs and the documentary episode 1. I did the episode 1 first, not knowing that it was going to be linked at all to the music. I thought it was just something to react to before the album actually dropped. I think I'm not the only one that was a little surprised that the entire album didn't drop Friday, last Friday, I believe. I think that's all. That's what we were all expecting. That's sort of the way it had been explained by Vannda up to that point. But as we saw, two songs came out, and my guess at first, when I first was watching these videos, was, oh, you know what? These two songs, I think I heard snippets of it in the documentary episode 1. Maybe that's what they're doing, is they're releasing these episodes alongside the music that they showcase being made in the videos. Now, the actual documentary was not about these two specific songs. I just heard a lot of little snippets that I think were those two songs in the background while they talked about their journey and some of the other details surrounding the creation of this album, who was involved, some of the events that they did. At least that's what we've seen thus far. And then parentheses and Life is a Game came out. Now, when I first heard these two songs, I was completely unsure of what was going on. I thought he was going to maybe drop the full album after those two singles, something like that. But that didn't come about. So my original guesses were that Life is a Game sounded like an intro song, which it may very well be if one of the theories I'm thinking of is correct. And parentheses sounded like a break that you would have somewhere in the middle of the album. Now, we don't know how long season 1 and season 2 of this album is. I very highly doubt that episode 1 encompasses the entire season 1, where they would have two songs and then have season 2 be like 10 or however long he's going to have this album. And so I'm sure there's going to be a couple more episodes, and that's the way season 1 is going to be released. Though, with the naming of it being season 2, it's very likely that this is going to continue all through until the album is dropped. So, I mean, my biggest guess is that's the way it's going to go, right? Episode of the documentary, and then a couple of songs relating to that episode in some way being released alongside it. Now, the big question is, are they releasing the songs in order, or is it more following the trajectory of the documentary? Meaning, maybe it's the order that the songs were created, but not necessarily the order that they're in the album. Um, and that would explain a little bit more of why parentheses would have been dropped now. Because to me, parentheses doesn't seem like the second song of an album. And I may be wrong, but it just, I can't wrap my mind around what album theme or concept is being done with that being the second. It just feels to me like it's more of a middle song. And again, I may be wrong, and I think I need more details, as we all do, to be able to give more definitive guesses or theories. But I think the biggest one, I think the one that's probably true and that we're all thinking, is that these songs are going to drop alongside the episodes. And they're gonna play off something that's going on in that episode in some way. Life is a game, right? So far, what we've seen is he's taken a little bit of a different approach from, again, from what we've seen. Skull One was more about his come up, is sort of my view on it. His come up, some of the struggles he had coming up, and trying to grind into the star that he is now. Skull 2 so far is sounding like what happens when you've actually reached that. Now he's mentioned in the songs that he's still working, he's going to overcome everything. But what it sounds like is it's a star talking about their problems and their issues and the stuff that they're still dealing with even once they hit this sort of stardom, right? And it's more challenges to get even bigger and to be able to spread his music even more. Parentheses, like I said, sound like kind of like a break song. Like everything is so fast paced in his life, he just needs to take a break for a minute, breathe, you know what I mean, recoup, and then go back out into the grind mode. So that's sort of the two main messages that I got out of those songs. And again, without having a second release, a second episode releasing, we don't even know what order it is. These are all super speculative guesses. My guess is that episode 2 is going to drop a week from when the last one released. So I think it was either Thursday or Friday, I forget. Alongside the music coming out later that day or the next day. Now, some reasons, some theories about why they may be doing this way. I think the biggest one is generating discussion, such as what I'm doing now, such as what I've seen a lot in comment sections, talking about what's going on at first and then being like, oh, okay, this is probably what's happening. So the first one I think is a little bit of publicity and marketing, where we're having a couple of songs drop and it extends out that anticipation for Skull 2. But another one that I think is important and may not be seen as sort of the main reason, but I think it's probably part of the reason, is by dropping songs off this album piecemeal, meaning one or two at a time, as opposed to the entire album at once, it gives people a bigger chance to actually absorb and listen and be able to break down music in their own head, right? Like they're absorbing one single. And I feel like I'm not the only one. When there's a single of an artist you really like, you listen to it a lot because you're waiting on the next album or the next release. You listen to that single a lot, you look at the lyrics, try and get some clues out of it, or just, you know what I mean, you absorb it a lot deeper. When a full album drops, what you mostly do is listen to the whole album in like a night, you know what I mean? And sure, you're listening, sure, you're enjoying songs that, but it's like when you have too much, you're not really treasuring each song the way that it should, or at least paying as much attention as you would, because you're waiting for the next song, right? Like you're listening to the first one, you're like, this is great, but about halfway through, you're like, I wonder what the next beat's gonna be. And it's a different way of absorbing and consuming the music, as opposed to it just being a single or two songs at once, and you really have to like listen and consume that media while you wait for the next songs to release, right? So I think maybe it's a way to be able to get his artistic vision out a little bit, or to have it be more understood by his audience, as opposed to it just being like, oh, Skull 2 was awesome. It's more, oh, this song is really good. You know what I mean? Now, a third and less likely reason, now I don't think this is a singular reason, but it could be an additional reason, is Vannda, I've seen, has a really diehard reaction community, believe it or not. And not to say that other artists don't, but I've watched a lot of reaction videos even before I ever touched making a video on YouTube. And it's the reason that I got into it. There were some people I really enjoyed and who really were able to break down music. And I'm like, well, I listen to a lot of music, and that's kind of what got me into it. But by being kind of involved in the community, you start to realize that there's certain artists that have a lot of people in the reaction community for them, as opposed to other artists, even if the other artist is bigger. So, for example, Eminem is one. NF, which I actually don't know much about him. I'm trying to like think right now, but believe it or not, there are a lot of big artists, and there are a lot of viewers for those reactions. But not a lot of people are looking up specifically like Kanye reaction videos, even though he's huge and he probably has a lot of views on his reaction or videos on his music that are reactions. But that's just because of how big he is. So eventually it trickles in. But I think it comes down to it being like a percentage thing. He gets a lot of reaction views because he's so huge. But there's other artists that get a larger proportion of people reacting, which leads me back to I've seen Vannda is one of those artists where he has a large percentage of people who like watching other people discover his music, and I think a large part of it is because he's trying to branch out internationally. So a lot of what you guys are trying to see or like seeing are people from different countries or just different perspectives discover him and be like, hey, Cambodia's got some good artists, right? It's like that discovery aspect. So because of that, I think he's aware of that, especially with him dropping that reaction video of his song as well. It was sort of like what do you call it? Like a node, I guess, like a nod to the people who are doing it that are helping his music spread. And I think that may be a third reason, right? Or another secondary reason is he's allowing these songs to be dropped slower, allowing that coverage to be done more by other people who like covering his music. And again, just moving down that path because I think that is a big way that he's being discovered out of Cambodia. Not the only way, by the way, but I have seen it that he does have that sort of diehard community for him. And so those are sort of some of the reasons I could see on why it's being done this way. There could be other reasons that we're not even aware of. Maybe he meant to drop it and he didn't by accident, so he's like, let's roll with it. I highly doubt that, but we don't 100% sure know. And I think we'll know a lot more when episode 2 drops, and we can compare the way the two episodes and their correlating music are done. So for example, if episode 2 of the documentary comes out and no music comes out alongside it, I'm going to be very confused, and I'm definitely not going to know what my guess is at that point. I'll take it as it comes. But yeah, like I said earlier in the video, I do think that's the way it's going to go. It's documentary and then some songs related to that episode. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments. I'm definitely curious. Let me know if there is official news that I just missed, because I follow him on Instagram and YouTube, and that's pretty much it. So if there's other avenues where he's releasing information about the album, you guys let me know in the comments. I will incorporate it into my idea, my theories. And I look forward to more music from him, of course, and I really appreciate all of your guys' support on my channel, my videos, and just teaching me different aspects of the culture that we've kind of covered thus far. So as always, if you like this, definitely let me know if you like this sort of content alongside the reactions. If you guys like seeing some of my thoughts on music and some of the music news that are going on with some of the artists that I react to, let me know what could make this better for you. And as always, if you like that, like, subscribe, and comment, and I will catch you guys on the next one.